I have a Loki shirt. Well, I'm going to talk about One Piece. Yeah, okay. I was gonna say, there's no connection that I can pull from this beyond the one that I was gonna go for initially, but there is a Loki in One Piece. He's the prince of. I was gonna say Asgard, but that's in Marvel and in Norse mythology to a degree. He's from Asgard, but in context of One Piece, he is the current prince of Elbath. But that's not where I'm going for this one. But that prince was once almost engaged to the older sister of one of the characters I'm going to talk about today. So this video is going to be about Sanji and Pudding. It's another one of the couples videos. Yes, I'm aware I'm slightly pulling at strings for this one, but in regards to what we see, they are almost married. In the context of the story, they are almost married, and from what we can tell, Sanji and Pudding very, very much like each other, and Pudding, at the end of the Totland arc, very much seems to have developed very rather intense feelings for Sanji, and I'll be going over those. Okay, so, Sanji and Pudding, chef's love. The context, of course, that we have that the two characters are going to meet is that, of course, Big Mom is forming this plan, of course, to assassinate the Vinsmoke family, and in doing so, she needs to have this bride-to-be, which is Pudding, willing to marry Sanji, and, her intention is to, of course, have, Pudding and Sanji up on the altar on top of the giant wedding cake is this perfect little bride and groom on top of the wedding cake, and then, have them be married, and then, trap the Vinsmokes, and then have Pudding shoot Sanji with her gun that allows her to shoot through their iron skin. They don't know that Sanji doesn't have the iron skin, whatever it's called. They don't know that Sanji doesn't have that, but they, of course, tested it on Reiju, which I'll be going over. So, basically what we see happen in regards to the way that this relationship unfolds is Sanji is, of course, on Totland, or not on Totland, on Zou, when the, Capone, when the, fire tank pirates show up with Capone Beige at the head of them, and he basically gives Sanji an offer that he can't refuse, and it's, you come with us, or, we'll kill your crew that's here and hurt the minks that are here and everything like that. Now, in the context of, Capone, we saw him shoot Pecoms, of course, during this time frame. But we also kind of see a little bit later how much more he is of a family man and he has a soft spot for things. So I don't necessarily know if he would have gone all out and, killing all of the minks. But I could be wrong on that. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think Capone would have gone that way. But moving away from Capone, Sanji agrees to go with him. And, we see them on the, on the tart ship sailing back to Totland and such. And, this is revealed that, Sanji is a member of the Germa family and, some other things. And, that his family are also kind of like comic characters, which is just funny in the, in the One Piece world. And the first time that Sanji sees anything to do with Pudding is when, I think it's Vito is the one that shows it to him, shows him this picture of Pudding, and it's just her just looking all innocent and everything, and Sanji is just instantly smitten because she's a pretty girl. And throughout the course of what we see happen is, they get to Totland, and Sanji ends up, meeting up with his father and his siblings, and, him and his father fight, and of course his father puts on the explosive handcuffs. Reiju is one that puts them on, doesn't tell Sanji that they're technically not going to explode, but puts them on Sanji under the illusion that if you decide to leave, then I will blow up the handcuffs, and, you'll lose your hands, so you can't be a chef anymore. Sanji's pretty dang determined. I'm pretty sure he would be able to find a way to still cook even without his hands, and given the fact that he has Franky on the crew, and Franky built his own hands and everything that he uses for his own, dexterity and tiny little work that he has, his tiny little hands that pop out of the really big hands, that he has. I'm pretty sure that Franky could build Sanji, new hands, but Sanji wouldn't feel the same about cooking with them, but still, he could do that. if it came down to it, Sanji probably knows that Franky can build him new hands, if absolutely necessary. But of course, that would be like the worst case scenario. But Sanji, of course, is told by, Judge, is like, you will marry this girl, and then you will be, stay here in Totland and be happy with her and everything. And then Big Mom will help me take over the North Blue again, and we'll have the Germa Kingdom reign over the North Blue again like it should have. Judge is way off in his own la-la land at this point in time. And of course, the first time that Sanji and Pudding meet is, of course, when they have like this kind of a lunch type thing in Totland at the Charlotte Chateau, the Whole Cake Chateau. And, Sanji and Pudding meet. And, she's giving off this very shy kind of, exterior and everything. We met Pudding earlier when the Straw Hats met her and everything back on Cacao Island. And then, of course, she says, oh, well, Sanji is so sweet, and he's this Prince Charming type thing, and, all this other stuff. And, we, of course, as an audience, at this point in time, we don't know that she's, of course, quote-unquote acting, which is why I have Loki here, because he, of course, pulls off, the acting innocent very well at times and everything. But what we see happen is, of course, she kind of, plays with the Straw Hats and then tells them, oh, well, if you go this way, and she gives them the map to, Whole Cake Island, and then, of course, sends them into the Seducing Woods, where they get chased, and, Chopper and Carrot get captured by Brûlé, and then Nami and Luffy end up, fighting Cracker, and then, blah, 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 and eventually Nami and Luffy are, of course, captured by the Charlotte children and locked up inside of Dora's book prison. And what we see happen is, during this time frame, Sanji and Pudding meet at the dinner, or at the lunch, and, Pudding, of course, acting very shy at this point in time, and then they have this time where they get to go and they get to talk to each other. And, they're kind of just having this moment where, Sanji and Pudding, she, it's like, I don't want to force you into this marriage. That's not what I want. And, she's like playing up, this very sweet, innocent kid. And there are a few issues I have with Sanji and Pudding's relationship. The main one that I have the problem with is that there is a 5-year age difference with them. Now, I've stated this before. I know that in Japan, the age for like consent or, legally married and everything like that is a little bit different than here in the United States. Barring certain circumstances with like parental permission and things like that. But, Sanji is 21 currently in the manga, and Pudding is, 16. So there's this bit of an age gap there. If Pudding was like 2 years older, or if Sanji was like 2 years younger, I wouldn't mind it so much, but I just have some slight issues with that. But I know that in Japan, that age of consent is a little bit different. I don't know how different, but I know that there's a little bit more of a difference there in that regard. But one of the things that we see happen is, of course, Sanji takes off the that weird medical force into shape plastic surgery type mask thing that Reiju put on him after he got the crap beat out of him by his father. And he takes that off and shows like his all beaten and puffed up face and everything, and Pudding's just like, oh no, Sanji, are you okay, type of thing. And just like, oh my god, are you okay? And like Sanji and her do have this rather sweet moment, and of course in the context for when you're reading it for the first time in the manga or seeing it for the first time in the anime, if you haven't read the manga or if you don't know about Pudding's, what happened, what Pudding is, you get this moment where it's just like, oh, she maybe really does care about him. And, maybe she doesn't, maybe her and Sanji might at least be somewhat happy together. I mean, like at this point in time, we already know that she's a chef because she's talked to the Straw Hats about that. And so we already see that, and she's already she's Sanji's type of pretty girl that is a chef. It's pretty much Sanji's type, pretty girl that is a chef. And what we see happen is, of course, they have the moment where she's just like, I don't want to force you to marry me, and I don't want this to be an unhappy marriage type of a thing. But Sanji's just like, that's okay. And like, he's kind of falling for her, of course. And they have the moment where they like hug and everything type thing, hold each other. And then, of course, Pudding goes back to her room, and Sanji stays in his guest room, as do the rest of the Germa, have their guest rooms in the castle. And, of course, at this point in time, Pudding has gone down, and she's talked to Nami and Luffy, and has, told them this, secret type of a thing. But, the audience, we don't quite hear what that secret is. And of course, Sanji tries to make Pudding this nice little dinner, and he tries to take it to her. And, he's not allowed in her room by, I think it's the, eggplant guard or something like that. I don't remember. But, he tries to get into her room, but the eggplant guard and the door won't let her. And then he ends up trying to, sneak around to try to surprise her. And he watches through the window as he sees the scene unfold between Pudding and his sister. And he sees his sister sitting there, and she's her leg is bleeding. She seems to be tied to the chair. And, Pudding is there. She has this gun, and she's got her hair pulled back from her, her bangs are pulled back to reveal that she has this, third eye on her forehead. I don't know how clearly Sanji can see the third eye, but he can probably tell that it's there. And of course, we see Pudding going on this rant and just kind of monologuing a little bit to Reiju, and she's just like, oh yeah, I would ever actually marry that ugly failure that's not even worthy of being a proper prince, why would I do that? And oh my god, his just she makes fun of him, and just oh my god, Pudding, it's just making fun of the way that he was acting, and his beat up face and everything. And just she's just I'm one of Mama's favorites because I'm this perfect little actress. And, I've been this way for a very long time. This is, of course, where we kind of get some of her backstory, that, she is this, member of the Third Eye tribe, of, she's this hybrid of a human and a Third Eye tribe. I still have yet to see any other Third Eye tribe members, or any, Pudding's father at all. Possibly in Totland, possibly dead, we don't know. The way that Big Mom tends to treat her husbands. But what we see happen is, of course, via the flashbacks, we see that Pudding was just very much, teased and ridiculed and everything when she was a child by, the other children that were in Totland, and, ridiculed and teased and everything because of her eye. And then, of course, kind of the same thing from her mother. Even though Lin doesn't like people to be discriminated because of their race type of a thing. So we see all of that in regards to what Pudding went through. So it's we can kind of see a little bit of what she had to go through, why she, tends to, hide her third eye, why she grew her bangs out, of course, to hide it. And, so she's ranting and raving to, Reiju, and explaining, oh, no. This wedding is a whole thing of, we're going to trap you and your father and your brothers at the wedding, and after I marry Sanji, then I'm going to kill him on top of the cake, and then you guys are all going to get killed, and then Mama and the family are going to take all of your cloning technology and then use that so that way she can become king of the pirates. Blah, 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 blah. Admittedly, in regards to playing devil's advocate, that's not a bad plan. I mean, you get cloning technology, you can basically, force, I guess, all the clones that are already made to work for you to a degree. It's not a bad idea. Particularly if she plans on cloning her strongest children, cloning a ton of katakuris and a ton of smoothies, and tons of her other extremely strong children. I would say possibly cloning herself too, but I don't know if Lin would want to do that. Although that would necessarily make it, if she has to replenish her own lifespan or use her own lifespan the way that we've seen her do in Wano recently, that would make that a lot easier, because this other thing would still have possibly the same level of soul power. Maybe not the soul fruit itself, but at least take the power, at least take the life energy from this clone of Big Mom instead, and then put that into herself and fix herself. Possibly. But back to the Sanji and Pudding stuff, and she's just I'm going to do that, and I'm just perfect little actress, and he's falling for the act so easily. It's just laughable. He's such an idiot, and she just, keeps referring to him as all these different things. And then, of course, she reveals to, but Reiju was just why are you telling me all this? I'll just tell them when I get out of here. they're going to be suspicious if I don't show up. And she's like, oh no, that's not a problem. And she literally, she pulls out Reiju's memories and cuts out and like replaces stuff and everything. And then Reiju wakes up in the hospital. And this is, of course, Sanji's figured out everything. And he's, he saw what happened with Pudding and with his sister. And he's just like, okay, this is what I got to do. And of course, him and Luffy and the Sanji rescue team, end up, meeting with, the Fire Tank Pirates. And of course, they make this alliance to deal with the wedding and everything. And of course, Sanji still has to play off of still being, still, pretending to, fall for Pudding's trickery. And, to get everything into the proper place so that way they can have all the pieces in the right spot for Capone and the rest of his crew to try to kill Big Mom at the wedding after they smish the picture, after they smash Mother Caramel's picture. And of course, that's basically things go rather as planned. Sanji and Pudding, meet before the wedding, when they're all in their, Pudding's in the beautiful wedding dress, which I do admit, I do like her wedding dress. It is rather pretty. And, Sanji's in his suit, and, they're going to be, this perfect little bride and groom on top of the wedding cake. And, everybody's so happy as they, fly in and everything. And, Judge and the Sanji's brothers could be any, any less aware if they tried to be in regards to the threat that's looming over them. Reiju knows, but she's told Sanji, just try to escape yourself and save you and your friends and leave your father, leave father and your brothers and I to die. It's fine. And what of course happens is, of course, Sanji and, Pudding fly in on the teacup and are put on top of the cake and everything next to the creepy looking minister. Very creepy looking minister. And, they have the moment where it's like, they're going through the vows. And then, of course, they're leaning in to kiss. And, Sanji pulls back her, her veil. And, Pudding has, I think she, had her eye showing or something like that. Because, we see these moments where she goes back and forth between, the very sweet Pudding that we see at the beginning of Totland to the Pudding that is with her third eye out, which is a little bit more of quote unquote her true self, because she's not hiding anything at that point in time. And of course what we see happen is Sanji pulls back her veil, and then he sees her third eye, and she's got the gun behind her back ready to fire at him. And, everybody else is in place. And I think Perospero has already wrapped his candy coating around the rest of the Vinsmoke so they can't escape at the moment. And, Sanji sees Pudding's eye and he just calls it beautiful. And that just throws Pudding way out of whack, because she's just no one's ever said that about her eye. No one said that about her, period, to a degree. They've all called her ugly or disgusting or different things like that. And she's just so very thrown by that. And, she's like, I've deceived, countless people with this act. And, Sanji's like, well, were you one of the ones that you deceived with this act? Deceived with this act of being this, little, able to be this little assassin type thing. And this moment where she just kind of has this breakthrough thing. And of course we've seen Sanji have this ability to kind of break through to people. We see this with Gin way at the beginning of One Piece when Sanji is first introduced. We see this with Viola in Dressrosa, which Viola ends up being this very good character anyway, in regards to her morality is very good, but she was doing what she had to protect her father and her niece and her country in regards to working with the Doflamingo family. So there's a little bit of a thing there, but being around Sanji with his kindness and everything is something that kind of, helps Viola realize that, okay, maybe the Straw Hats and Law can help. Maybe they can help our country. And Pudding kind of has this similar moment where she, has, had this interaction with Sanji. And she just kind of breaks down crying. And of course, and at this point, the whole wedding has just kind of gone into chaos at this point in time, Luffy and the others show up and they free the Vinsmoke, so they're ready to start fighting. And the Fire Tank Pirates tried to kill Big Mom after they smashed the picture, but that didn't work. And then of course we have all this other stuff that's going on. And during this time frame, Pudding sees kind of Sanji being, very kind when he, saves, Nami from falling and everything. And then we start to have this moment where Sanji and, Pudding realizes that because, the wedding cake got destroyed, and of course Big Mom's starting to go on her wedding cake rampage all over the place. So, and I think she tells Perospero, she tells someone, one of the older siblings, that is just like, we need to make a new wedding cake to make her calm down. And of course, her and Pudding and Chiffon, fly off on her magic flying carpet, which I just find adorable, fly off on that back to Cacao Island, so that way they can, start working on the cake. And, they get there, and, like, we see these moments between, like, her and Sanji where she's just, like, she keeps going back and forth, where she basically has developed this, like, split personality at this point in time, where it's, part of her that is kind of this more sweet side, but then this other side of her that is very much this doesn't like Sanji side. And she keeps going back and forth between the two of them, which is actually kind of funny to watch, but also dangerous when it comes to Sanji. And, like, it's like the really sweet side that likes him, and then the other side that's like when her third eye is, like, out and, like, looking angry, doesn't like him to a degree. And, like, it's like this. She goes very, I think it's either yandere or tsundere. I can never remember which one is which. But she's very much like no, I don't like him. Oh my god, he's so sweet. No, I don't like him. Oh my god, he's so sweet. Going back and forth with that and everything. And of course, they get to Cacao Island and they start working on the wedding cake. And, Sanji sees her in the chef's outfit, and he's just like, oh my god, my heart. But he's just like, oh my god, she's so cute in the chef's outfit as they're, like, running around and cooking and, like, with the other chefs and with Chiffon and everything to get the wedding cake ready. And of course, we see, this interactions where, like, almost anytime that Sanji, like, compliments her on, like, her cooking skills or anything like that, or even, like, calls her beautiful or cute or something like that, she just goes, oh my god, type moments where she's just, like, so, like, baffled but so complimented and just doesn't know what to do with that, because, like, yeah, she's been told that she's a great cook before. That's not surprising, because from what we've seen so far in Totland up to that point in regards to, like, the care that she put into, like, her, house thing that she built on Cacao Island, house business, whatever, that she built on Cacao Island that Luffy and Chopper ate. We see that she has this huge amount of passion for cooking and everything, and that's very evident during this time frame where her and Sanji and Chiffon are, like, making this cake. And, like, I think at one point it's like Chiffon brings up the topic to Sanji of just like, because at this point Chiffon does want her mother dead, but she is okay with her mother dying. Doesn't mean, I don't think Chiffon would be able to do the act herself, but she is okay if her mother is killed or dies. But we see this moment where I think, like, the concept of, like, poisoning the cake comes into play, where, like, Chiffon mentions something like that, and Sanji just goes, no, I'm not going to do that, because Sanji is not going to use his food, his cooking skills to hurt someone. That is a very antithesis of Sanji's character. And Pudding sees this, and, like, Sanji makes the comment of just like, I just can't wait to see how happy Big Mom is gonna be when she, bites into this cake and, like, gets to taste this, great cake and everything. I just can't wait to see how happy that's gonna make her and everything. And, like, his joy for cooking, of course, we know this for Sanji, comes from his joy in seeing people's reaction to his food. Pudding sees this from him, and she's just like, oh my god, wow, okay then. It's like he has this opportunity to be able to put something in the cake to cause Big Mom harm, and he doesn't, because he doesn't want to use his cooking skills that way, which is very admirable. And I think that's another thing that kind of endears him to, Pudding. And of course we saw, like, the moments where, like, quote unquote evil Pudding persona pops up, which is, like, when her, third eye seems to, like, pop up on her forehead and everything, like when her, is, when her third eye is showing and everything like that, and, like, Sanji is, having these interactions with her and everything. And of course with that, it's, they have to get the cake to Cacao Island, and that's where the Fire Tank Pirates help with that, with getting the cake there on their ship. And then of course they get the wedding cake there, and then during that time frame, during that time frame is when, like, Oven is trying to still catch Luffy and everything with, because Luffy during this whole time frame is, like, battling with, Katakuri on and off again, throughout the Miro world and everything, popping in and out and battling him and then dashing away and then fighting and then dashing away and everything. So we have that whole fight that's going on with us, Luffy in the Miro world between him and Katakuri. But, and Sanji doesn't have a huge amount of, huge knowledge that this is happening, but he's probably kind of like been informed at this, at some point in time frame, because I think at some point he does see like, Nami or something like that, because he does of course end up on the ship again at some point. That's when he finds out of course that Pedro has died and everything. But what we see happen is the evil pudding keeps saying like mean things about Sanji, and he just kind of like pays it no mind at all. And when they're on Cacao Island, we have the moment where Sanji and Pudding are, of course, like hiding in the back alley and everything. And, they got the cake where it needed to go. And, like, Big Mom's going to eat the cake. And, they had to get him to Cacao Island because that's where the Straw Hats were going to be. And we have the moment where, like, they say goodbye. And, Pudding becomes very flustered whenever like someone mistakes them for like a married couple, which is just adorable. But we have the moment where she does kiss Sanji, and then she also pulls the memory out of his head, so that way he doesn't remember them kissing, or doesn't remember like this last conversation that they had. And she is just extremely sad about this. And like when Sanji leaves, when like the Straw Hats are leaving Totland, we see Pudding in like this alley with like this memory of her and Sanji from his perspective of like them kissing. And she's just like crying because she's just like heartbroken at this point in time, because like it's like the one guy so far that she's interacted with that didn't show her ridicule, even once finding out about her eye, didn't show her ridicule and didn't show anything that was any type of negativity toward her because of the way she looks or anything like that. And like even kind of gave her this kind of benefit of the doubt thing in regards to you've been acting the way that that Linlin and the family expect you to act for so long, but is that really the way that you want to act type of moment. And I do find that very endearing in regards to the way that Sanji spoke that way to Pudding. I do think that it would be, side note, in regard to just like, Pudding's relationship with her siblings, I'm actually slightly surprised that like, if this isn't true, I'd be very surprised if like, because like the main sibling that she would be able to like bond with over this type of an issue in regards to the way that she looks, and having to hide part of that would be Katakuri. And you would think that maybe over the years, at some point, maybe Katakuri did, when he saw how much she was, maybe getting, teased and ridiculed by the other kids, that maybe there were these moments where like he took her aside and like, he's like, it's not a bad thing the way that you look. Your eye does not make you bad. Your eye does not mean that you are different or ugly or anything like that. It's just another part of you. And like if Katakuri like ever showed her his, his eel mouth and his scars, I don't think that Pudding would end up laughing at him. I don't think Pudding would end up laughing at him and, teasing him and everything the way that Flampe did. Pudding seems to have a better head on her shoulders than Flampe does. And I would just think that that would be like this like better relationship that Pudding and Katakuri would be able to have with each other. I mean, but you look at some of the other, children from the Charlotte family that are like the different hybrids or whatever, like, they have the like Opera and his brothers that none of them look particularly appealing in regards to the physical appearance. And then you have like the ones that are the long legs or the long arms or the snake necks, and like that doesn't mean that they're ugly. It's just, and like they weren't ridiculed when they were growing up, or even though they may still have been ridiculed depending on when Linlin got back and started to form Totland. That may have been different, particularly with like Perospero and his giant tongue, and just some of the other kids that are just kind of stranger looking. You would think that the older siblings would be like very protective of their younger siblings in regards to just them being ridiculed, not only like try to prevent each other from ridiculing them, but also try to prevent the other people of Totland from ridiculing them as well. But that's just my opinion on that one. And in regards to kind of a continuation in regards to possible more continuation in regards to Sanji and Pudding's relationship, very recently in the manga, we got started with the Germa's heartless, cold-hearted, emotionless, whatever voyage. And of course, that was revealed at the point that I'm recording this, it was just revealed that, like, Niji and Yonji had been, Niji and Yonji, I'm like, yeah, blue and green, that they had been captured by Mont d'Or and, Oven at, Cacao Island. And, even though that, like, Judge and Reiju and Ichiji had escaped, those two had been caught, and, like, Pudding is on the island as well, and we see her in one of the panels. And that one only just came out, so that could change, there may be some more further developments in that story in regards to, like, possibly what Pudding may do or what else may happen in that time frame by the time this goes up. But my thought is that possibly what'll happen is, Pudding may attempt to try to see if she can find a way to help, Ichiji and Yonji escape, or Niji and Yonji escape. Help the two of them escape or something like that, maybe. Or, maybe say, well, I'll keep an eye out, and if Sanji, or not Sanji, but if any of your family show back up again, I'll try to see what I can do to help you escape, maybe. We'll see what happens. In regards to down the line for what may happen with Sanji and Pudding, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if down the line, if it does end up being that, like, at the moment that I'm recording this, Big Mom just kind of got her butt handed to her again by Kid and Law, and we'll see how that goes if she does finally stay down. I don't think they outright killed her, but, because they just did the "this is the end of your era" type thing, and, it might just be that she might just stay down, be knocked out for a while, and, just kind of be down for the count, and, like, maybe her children will show up and, like, get her out of there, and, like, they'll head all back to Totland type of a thing. Because if she dies, then of course all the homies probably die. But if she's still alive, just knocked out, then they can hopefully get her out of there, and then they can head back to Totland, get her and Perospero, and go back to Totland. Or if it does end up being that she's dying, then, there's this whole concept that, like, oh, if she does die, or if she just can't fight the way that she used to anymore, she can't do this anymore, then it might be that, maybe they'll team up with the Straw Hats, where, like, maybe Katakuri will help Luffy train some more and, like, his awakening, or different things like that. And that could involve, like, Pudding being able to be with Sanji again. I know some people, like, ship Sanji, because, like, I know people ship, like, Sanji and Nami, and, like, Sanji and Vivi, and, like, Sanji and Robin, and Sanji and Viola, and, of course, Sanji and Pudding, of course. Sanji and Pudding is the main one that I tend to ship out of all of those, but I can see why other people like all the other, other ones as well, which is fine. If those are what you like, then that's fine. In regards to, actual ships, I do tend to, fan ships, I do tend to prefer, like, Nami and Luffy, of course, and, like, Robin and Tashigi, or not Robin and Tashigi, Zoro and Tashigi. Robin and Tashigi would be interesting as well, but Zoro and Tashigi, and, like, Robin and Frankie. And then Sanji and Pudding, but that's a different story. Maybe I'll do a series at some point where I just talk about my fan ships for One Piece, but that's a different story. I don't have a concrete one for what I'm going to do for the next couples one, but I do just kind of want to do this kind of a video where I talk about, like, Luffy's adventure with romance. His romance with adventure, excuse me. And I kind of want to do a video about that, because that is kind of like the whole basis for the series, is Luffy's, romance with adventure, Romance Dawn, this adventure that Luffy started way back, 1,000 some chapters ago. And, like, I might do a video about that. So that's what I have for this. I thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a nice rest of your day. And since these are chefs, if you think of any type of oh, I don't know, any type of recipe you think that would be good, pop that in the bottom. And of course, I of course have the Berry D Brick, peanut butter cookie slash brownies on this channel. So you can always go and find that recipe. So bye. I've deceived countless people like this. And were you yourself one of them, Pudding Chan?